2018, parts of Puerto Rico remained without power for 5 days following an island-wide blackout due to the possible equipment failure, which is also falls under the responsibility of I believe Luma Energy, since like they kind of caused all this to begin with. I'm not sure. I'm sure like all companies, they like probably made mistakes along the way, but Luma Energy was the one that was like mainly and solely responsible for like complications with this. In August, Luma launched an effort to curb the island's frequent and length power outages amid growing pressure from activists who wanted to cancel its 15-year contract. There was a contract agreement, and it was just again, like all of this, it was unfair to the civilians already living there. So there was a lot of protests, and there still to this day, like if you look up an article, like there's probably gonna be like a recent protest about just everything that's been happening about to Puerto Rico in result to the hurricanes. We'll now be moving on to the closing of schools and local businesses. To our left is a photograph of an abandoned school classroom. Just kind of shows you like how much in damage like these buildings are. The photographer, there were two photographers that took this photo, and they kind of did like a series of like Puerto Rico and like how like it looks right now. And in this classroom, they found books and blackboards rotted in the humidity. There were stray dogs making like they were hosting shelter and like making their own beds underneath teachers' classroom, underneath teachers' desks. And then some of the buildings had been inhabited by addicts and thieves and just like homeless people. That's another thing that I didn't add to this presentation. I'm not sure what the situation is with like homeless shelters, but I know that was also a struggle that Puerto Rico's facing right now. And then yeah, like it kind of just lists more on the economic damage and how like the hurricanes overall contributed to the deaths of anywhere from 2,650 people to 3,290 people. It was probably more though. As yeah, for the schools, there was a huge demographic shift among like various age groups of Puerto Rico. It went down to 4%. As a result, public school student enrollment, like even before the hurricanes, that was already a struggle that Puerto Rico was trying to maintain, like trying to get more kids to go to school, but it not being affordable to other people. Like a big thing so I'm Colombian, I'm Hispanic, and I lived in like my designated home country for like 2 years. And something that I noticed about South America is that there's like in America, there's public schools and private schools. And although private schools sometimes offer a better education than public schools, that's not always the case in America. And like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as you're able to attain education. It's very different for like South American countries because of the struggle to have access to education overall. And a lot of the times going to a private school is much better than public schools because public schools don't have as much money, therefore their curriculum isn't as advanced and as like educated as it should be. And yeah, that was like a issue that Puerto Rico faced, like many families trying to send their kids to private schools so they could have a better education, but it not being affordable. So the numbers just went down as to like kids who are going to school. As a result, public school, yeah, I already read that. Public school student enrollment decreased 44% between 2006 and 2018. Private school enrollment decreased at a similar rate over the same time period. Hurricane Irma and Maria only helped to accelerate this negative trend that was going on, which the Center of Puerto Rican Studies have documented in previous research briefs on housing and student enrollment. Like there's documents just to like prove all of this. School closures have become a continuing issue due to lack of government support. That's like a whole other thing. I didn't list too much information on it. And I'm not like too sure as to like the state of Puerto Rico's government at the moment. But yeah, that was like another factor that contributed to all of this. Like their government wasn't always great at times, or said they were going to help with certain things but then didn't, or there was a delay in those things, and that made a lot of people frustrated. approximately one quarter of public schools have closed in Puerto Rico, leaving 855 operational for the 2018 to 2019 year. I'm not sure as to the numbers for today. I couldn't find any, but yeah, that just gives you an idea of like how bad the situation is. And then when compared to urban areas, this has had a disproportionate impact on rural communities where the majority of school closures have taken place 65% to 35%. Like that's how far down the number went. So like basically half of it. As it stands, there are roughly 300,000 students enrolled in public schools and a little more than 100,000 in private schools. And then this is just like another there's going to be like many slides after this about like just overall statistics. Since 2007, Puerto Rico's Department of Education has closed 673 public schools, compromising 4% of the Commonwealth's total. This dramatic decline accelerated the dramatic decline accelerated following the government debt crisis, which began in 2014 and the subsequent hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017. And yeah, it just shows you like Puerto Rico has closed 673 public schools since 2007, and then it just kind of gives you like a number of like how far down it's going. Like it started from 1,523 public schools that were open to now 850. I'm assuming it's probably down to like the 600s now that it's 2022, almost 2023. And then yeah, just some more general information about that. And then this is just like a list of like all the schools that exist in Puerto Rico overall. And it's estimated that the closures would affect 18,644 students in the public education system. So yeah, you could just see the list of like where they're located, the name, and as you can see, like the enrollment numbers are so irregular. Like you have like numbers that are close to 300, then you have numbers as low as 50, and it varies between like primary school, secondary school, etc. But yeah, that's just like a long list. Many people are like trying to get more schools to open again and just trying to fix this huge problem. A lot of people have been voicing their concerns that the schools closure risks amplifying race and class inequalities, undermine government accountability, and potentially violate constitutional rights. Because at the end of the day, everyone deserves to have an education. The report urges that measures must be taken to keep public assets in the public sphere, ensuring they serve public needs and remain accountable to the public. I think by just like from this quote alone, I think the government has just kind of been like hush hush about a lot of things in Puerto Rico and saying, yeah, just saying the religious things, but then don't, typical politics. And then this is just kind of a list that like people made in regards to like how can we make the situation better, what needs to happen, what doesn't need to happen, what needs to stop, etc. And then focusing on local businesses. Before we get into that, 7 reasons why local businesses are struggling to keep open and are closing in Puerto Rico. Number 1, economic challenges, high social spending, public debt and bankruptcy, political leadership and civil unrest, fragile infrastructure and natural disasters, Asian population and increased outmigration. And then COVID-19 was like just across the globe, like a huge reason why local businesses were struggling to keep open or had to close. And then just some statistics in regards to that. Small businesses are critical to Puerto Rico's economy. There are over 40,000 small businesses in Puerto Rico, making up 99.7% of all business establishments on the land. Lack of access to capital is a critical challenge for these small businesses in Puerto Rico. They're eligible for to like have loans, but they're really difficult to acquire. And then just some statistics going over that, like how the numbers have like increased and decreased over the years. Manuel A. Laboy, Secretary of the Department of Economic Development and Commerce in Puerto Rico, or I think overall in South America, I'm not really sure, but he says that given the coronavirus's impact on Puerto Rico's economy, he estimates that 20% to 30% of the 43,000 existing businesses in the island will close permanently, which is scary. Half of the jobs generated by the private sector, over 600,000, come from small and medium-sized businesses with fewer than 50 employees, which have been the hardest hit by the pandemic. This represents 95% of the 43,000 private businesses in Puerto Rico. That is a mouthful. And then, yeah, we'll be moving on to transforming homes into hotels. Many investors buy residential properties and then resell them at a higher price or turn them into short-term vacation rentals, turning entire neighborhoods into like Airbnbs and just hotels, condos, etc. And it's creating a shortage of inventory for local residents, meaning like a lot of people are losing their homes, and it's because there are so many people trying to come in and make something out of Puerto Rico and like build a hotel, build a condo or whatever. Like there are if someone's being kicked out of their homes, every time that happens, like every time a new hotel is being built, the number for how many homes are available to move into decrease significantly. And this has been affecting civilians severely. 43% of Puerto Ricans live under the federal poverty level, so just acquiring a home overall and just being able to pay for it is a struggle itself. And with this occurring, it doesn't really help. As of October, Puerto Rico has received 1,349 applications in 2021, a record from people looking to become resident investors. Out of those, like 982 have been approved. And then in all, more than 4,286 applications have been approved since 2012, with more than 35% of them being approved in the last 3 years. Under the law, an investor can qualify for the tax break if he or she or they has not been a resident of Puerto Rico for at least 10 years prior. The investor must also buy a home to qualify for relief from taxes of capital gains, dividends, interest, revenues from services, etc. The more than 3 million Puerto Ricans already living on the island do not qualify for these tax breaks. So it just sounds, I'll repeat that. The more than 3 million Puerto Ricans already living on the island don't qualify for these tax breaks. So that just shows you like the unfairness of like what is happening. Like someone who has only lived in Puerto Rico for like a year or less, like they're able to like acquire those tax breaks, but the people who have been like who are born in that island and have been living there for years, they don't qualify. And and then just overall what people can do to help today's Puerto Rico. So 4 ways you can help is just donate to relief efforts. If you are able to send over goods and supplies, or like if you ever find yourself in Puerto Rico and you stumble upon like relief like nonprofit and you want to donate like some food or water, like that's always good to do. Staying informed, staying educated, educating others, that's always helpful. And then reaching out to friends, colleagues, neighbors, and those who have personal ties to Puerto Rico and like start conversations there. Or and then this is just kind of a list of resources and where to donate, such as like the American Red Cross, PRXPR, the Spanish Federation, Taller Salud, GoFundMe, Brigada Solidaria de Oeste, and Fundación Sin Límites. These are all just places you can donate to, whether they're like nonprofits or they're focusing to alleviate, for example, like women and LGBTQ people of their struggles, or they focus on the hurricane specifically, or they focus on power outages specifically, or just stuff like that. And then 2 other resources are Comedores Sociales de Puerto Rico and Proyecto Matria. Proyecto Matria kind of goes along with what I said earlier, like they help to alleviate women and queer people of Puerto Rico of just like whatever they're struggling with. And then Comedores Sociales de Puerto Rico is basically like a food bank. Like you go there, you donate food, water. I think they like give you the chance to like even go cook and like serve people food, kind of like how a lot of food banks in New Hampshire are. I know like Manchester has like a good amount of food banks that do that. And then yeah, that is my final presentation. Thank you for listening.